Hi, I'm Michael Joseph Jackson, born in Gary, Indiana, and I want to tell you my story in my own words. From the first time I sang on a family stage, music felt like the air I breathed. My brothers and I learned to move and sing together in a tiny living room. Dad ran rehearsals like a coach, and I learned to take each moment seriously. Those cramped practices taught me rhythm, focus, and how to listen to the crowd. As a kid, I adored old movie musicals. I'd study dancers on screen and try to copy a step or a hand flick until it felt like mine. I think that habit made me a dancer who also sings, not the other way around. We became the Jackson 5 and hit the road. Tiny theaters, school gyms, and community halls, learning how to turn every small crowd into believers. That hustle taught me showmanship before I even knew the word. When Motown came calling, everything sped up. Bright lights, radio, and sudden doors that used to be closed. I felt equal parts thrilled and oddly shy. Fame was a new language I had to learn. Recording in real studios felt like magic. I'd listen through the glass and imagine the singer I wanted to be. Sometimes whispering parts of a melody until the engineer smiled and said, "That's it." I remember writing little songs at home. Words came out of tiny moments. A moonlit street, a kid's laugh, and I'd keep those lines in my head like treasures. Songwriting became my secret notebook. Even with success, I loved simple things: cartoons, classic movies, and collecting little toys. Those quiet pleasures kept me grounded when the world around me felt loud. On stage, I learned to listen to the silence between notes. That pause can mean more than the loudest dance step. I'd hold a crowd with a look and a tiny breath. People often ask about my voice as a child. I trained it like an instrument, playing with tone and breath. Sometimes I'd practice harmonies for hours until my brothers teased me to stop. I also learned early that image matters, not vanity, but clarity. A glove, a hat, a step, little signals that tell people who I am before I open my mouth. Costume became part of my storytelling. Between tours and recordings, I loved practicing alone in dim rooms. Sometimes inventing moves in the silence. Those private experiments later surprised even my choreographers. By the end of this first chapter of my life, I knew music would always be my home, a place to tell things I couldn't say any other way. Thank you for listening so far. There's much more to come. When I started thinking about a solo career, it felt like stepping out of my own shadow. I loved my brothers deeply, but I had melodies whispering in my head that only I could hear. Working on Off the Wall with Quincy Jones changed everything. He didn't just hear my voice. He heard the man behind it. Together, we built songs that sounded like sunlight on glass. When Don't Stop Till You Get Enough hit the charts, I remember thinking, now they're finally hearing me. That groove was my heartbeat at the time. Restless, alive, and hungry. Then came Thriller. I didn't just want to make an album. I wanted to make history. I wanted every track to feel like its own world, every beat like a heartbeat from another planet. When we shot the Thriller video, I knew it was more than a music clip. I wanted to turn sound into cinema, to give music a story, a face, a dance that never dies. The red jacket, the zombies, the moves, people still talk about them. But behind the scenes, we worked like crazy. I practiced until my legs shook, chasing perfection I could barely describe. Fame exploded. One moment, I was walking down a street. The next, I needed guards just to breathe. It was strange. Everyone wanted to see me, but few really saw me. I built Neverland as a place where imagination could live. It wasn't an escape, it was a reminder that wonder and innocence aren't things we should grow out of. People often misunderstood Neverland. To me, it was about love, the kind that listens, laughs, and heals. I invited children who were sick or sad, just to see them smile for a while. When Bad came out, people said it was my boldest album. I wasn't trying to be bad. I was trying to be free, to own my image, my sound, and my truth. The smooth criminal lean, that was me chasing the impossible again. I wanted to move in ways gravity didn't allow. We built shoes, wires, and dreams to make it happen. Even with all the lights and noise, I was still searching for peace. Music gave me that. Late nights in the studio, humming to myself, surrounded by nothing but sound. There was joy, exhaustion, and sometimes loneliness. But through it all, I kept dancing, because every step reminded me that life, like rhythm, keeps moving no matter what. When I began working on Dangerous, I wanted my sound to evolve. Harder beats, deeper messages. The world was changing, and I wanted my music to say something real. Songs like Black or White came from my heart. I'd seen too much division in the world. I wanted to remind people that love is stronger than color, stronger than hate. Performing Billie Jean at the Motown 25 show was a turning point. That's when the moonwalk was born. Funny thing is, it wasn't planned. It just happened, and the crowd went wild. People called me the king of pop. Titles never mattered much to me. What mattered was connection. When someone felt joy or healing through my music, that was the real crown. But fame has a shadow. Rumors, cameras, and accusations followed me everywhere. I often felt trapped inside my own reflection, famous but misunderstood. I poured my pain into music. Earth Song was my cry for the planet. They Don't Care About Us was my scream for justice. Every lyric came from somewhere deep inside. Through it all, I never stopped believing in kindness. I visited hospitals secretly, sent toys to children, and helped strangers who would never know my name. That was my true mission. I also became a father, and that changed everything. Holding my children, I felt a kind of love I'd only sung about before. They reminded me what innocence truly means. Even as my world grew more complicated, I kept dreaming of one more big show. Something pure, full of love, a way to say thank you to my fans around the world. That dream became This Is It. We rehearsed for hours, planning every beat, every light. I felt alive again. Like the stage and I were old friends reuniting after a long time apart. In those final rehearsals, I remember saying, "We're putting love back into the world." That was my goal, not to shock, but to heal. Music was always meant to heal. My time on Earth ended sooner than expected. But I believe the soul doesn't die. It dances on in every song, every heartbeat, every person who dares to dream. So if you ever listen to my music, remember, it's not just me singing. It's every child who ever believed in magic, every heart that refused to give up. That's my story. That's me.